I'd like to call to order the Presque City Council meeting for Wednesday, November 6, 2024. We have a quorum of 6 out of 7 councilors present. And please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. The first item of business is to remember a former councilman that was here with us, and if you'd join me in a moment of silence for recently passed away Gary Nelson Sr. So please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Gary will be a missing person on our team. He was a great guy, insightful, and a very dear friend to many people in Presque. Moving on to the public hearing section of tonight's meeting. The first item of business in the public hearing is to approve a marijuana cultivation license to James Bacon, DBA Bacon Cannabis, with a location of 55 Industrial Street. So I'll turn this over to the city manager, and he can introduce the topic.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you mentioned, this is for a cultivation license. All inspections have been completed and fees have been paid and are up to date, and we do recommend approval for this.
So at this point, we'll open up the public hearing and ask the public for any items or things that they want to comment, or if there's anybody from the business who would like to comment for or against this application. So public hearing's open now. Seeing no public comments, we'll close the public hearing and ask council for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I will move that we approve the marijuana cultivation license to James Bacon, doing business as Bacon Cannabis, with location at 55 Industrial Street.
And moved by Councilor King.
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jeff. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? 6-0. Thank you. Item 2 of the public hearing section of tonight's meeting is to solicit feedback for Kelly's Place Learning Center CDBG economic development application. So, Tyler, you talk about that one.
Yes, this is a application for a community development block grant for Kelly's Place Daycare. Essentially, it would be the city applying on their behalf, and this is a program through the state of Maine that grants municipalities direct business support grants. At this time, we have reviewed the application with NMDC, and we do recommend approval and moving forward with this.
Thank you. Is there anybody from the public who would like to comment on the public hearing portion of this? We'll open it up for public comment at this time. Anybody here from Kelly's Learning Place that would like to discuss this? Nope. And no public comments, so we'll close the public hearing and we'll ask council for a motion. Or is this just
It's discussion only.
it's just discussion?
Only.
So we'll ask council for a discussion.
Well, I think, kind of, as far as I'm concerned, we did that during council and legal counsel discussions a month ago, and we moved forward with the application. So I think I'm perfectly fine with that, unless there was anything new, which I don't believe there was.
Yeah, Sam, has this application been submitted yet?
It has not. The previous discussion was a public declaration, which is part of the application process. So
Do we need a motion to proceed to submit this application?
you do not know.
Okay.
And the application amounts in the amount of 100,000.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody else have any other discussion? Comments?
I want to say,
Doug?
last meeting when it was put in, someone, I cannot remember, getting old here, had brought up the concern for other daycares being able to,
Yes,
it might have been you, Craig.
I did, yes,
And I-
and the answer was that they're all able to apply to the same process with NMDC, and they will help any local daycare service or any business that would fit into those guidelines to do the same exact thing. So we're not playing favorites, we're just simply moving this along, and anyone else is more than welcome to do the same.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what they told us.
Any other comments? Well, I wish them the best of luck with this Economic and Community Development Block Grant application. Hope it goes through. The next item of business is in the public hearing sections, approve a malt, spirituous, and vinous license to Ferris Barbecue for the location of 79 Parsons Road.
Yes, Mr. Chair, again, this is just a renewal of their license year over year. That said, their inspections have come back in good order, and they have paid all applicable fees. And we do recommend approval.
Thank you. Is there anybody from the public who would like to comment for or against this application? I'll open the public hearing at this time. Anybody from Ferris's like to talk about this? If they're present? No? Okay. So we'll close the public hearing and ask City Council for a motion.
I'd move we approve a malt, spirituous, and vinous liquor license to Ferris Barbecue, location 79 Parsons Road, Presque.
I'll second it.
Been moved by Craig, seconded by Hank. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? Unanimous, 6-0. Thank you. The last item on the public hearing section is to talk about the 2025 municipal budget. This is the second hearing for that, and we'll ask the city manager to open that discussion.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, we have had multiple workshops and met with our department heads who have presented their budgetary requests. We do have another workshop coming up on November 13th. And at this time, and this evening, we will be considering outside requests as well. The budget at this time is continuing to move forward, and suggest we solicit feedback from the community.
So we'll open it up for a public hearing and stuff. The municipal budget process, I just want to remind people and, plug us a little bit, is that all these workshops are completely open to the general public to attend. So they're normally held here in this room, and the next one will be November 13th, but we also have some things to discuss this evening. So having said that, anybody that wants to speak on, for, or against, or have a comment or question about the budget, now would be the opportunity to speak. We're not anywhere near finalizing this yet, by the way.
Correct.
We got a little ways to go.
Yes.
No public comments. We'll close the public hearing portion of this and move on to citizen comments, I believe. So now we'll open up discussion for citizen comments. This is an opportunity again for public to discuss anything that's on their mind. Please come on up and to the podium, declare where you live and your name, and please keep your comments to 2 to 3 minutes. So open up citizen comments section. Really lively group here tonight. We have a
Everybody's
winner.
overtired.
We have a winner. Welcome.
Thank you. Meg Hageman, 119 Dudley Street in Presque. I just want to, looking at the agenda, I just want to make an observation, I guess. So really appreciate voter turnout yesterday for the city of Presque Isle. And city folks had an opportunity to express their desires for the next round of city council members. I certainly appreciate and I'm thankful for those who voted as I express condolences to the family of Gary Nelson, I also think it's worth the council considering taking the next highest amount of voter, that was not, okay. The next highest number of votes for council and consider appointing that individual to fill that remaining, since they've already had the opportunity to express their desires. Just seems like kind of an obvious sort of win-win to me, so I thought I would express that as a recommendation for the appointment.
Thank you. Anybody else want to talk under the citizen comments portion of tonight's agenda? All right, thank you very much for the comments. Did we receive anything in writing as far as written comments goes? Not that you're aware of. Okay.
No.
So again, we'll invite people that are watching online, if they want to submit comments for the next meeting and stuff, that they're welcome to email the city of Presque Isle and submit those comments in writing, and we will get them read at the next meeting. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is our consent agenda. So let me read these 5 points, and then I'll ask council for how they want to handle them. So item 5, approve the 2024 warrant number 37 through 41 totaling $2,364,833.25 to approve a road closure for the holiday light parade on December 7th, 2024. Approve an application for a utility pole permit on Dobson Street. Item 8, consent to Bar Harbor Wealth Management for Tyler Brown, City Manager, and Laura Smith, Finance Director, to sign necessary documents. Item 9, approve the application for Aidan McFarland to the Rec and Parks Trustee Board. And item 10, to appoint a person to replace Gary Nelson, City Council position. So I'll ask council for how they want to handle these items.
What are the numbers?
5 through 10, 5 through,
9.
go 5 through 9, and should we discuss 10 separately?
Yeah. Well, fine.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to approve items 5 through 9 on the consent agenda as presented, and address number 10 separately.
I'll second that.
Been moved by Jeff and seconded by Hank. Is there any other discussion? Seems like we're all in agreement there. All those in favor? All those opposed? 6-0. Thank you. So that handles the approval of the consent agenda 5 through 9. And so the next item is on the consent agenda is to appoint a person to replace Gary Nelson's city council position. So we'll open that up with the city manager and talk about some facts and advice. So go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we do have a few options here this evening, but first and foremost, per our city charter, the council is required to appoint an individual to that seat within 30 days following the occurrence of a vacancy. Otherwise, there must be a call for a special election to be held at least 90 days and no more than 120 days after the vacancy occurs. It would be up to the council to judge the qualifications of any individual that they wish to appoint. And at this time, we do have Jake in the room as well that can also read on the legal side. As far as the options are concerned, you can appoint an individual to that seat until the next election, which would be next year. You also have the option to, as Mr. Williams was previously elected and previously appointed to a vacated seat, you do have the opportunity to elect the individual that won that seat to his chair. That would remove Mr. Williams from council, and you could then consider him as well as anyone within the community. So there are a few options there. Jake, if you feel that I misspoke.
You covered everything there.
Okay, thank you.
That was about as clear as a mud puddle there on a rainy day. So, okay. So that There is an opinion from Maine Municipal Association.
Yes, so in consultation with MMA Legal, the MMA Legal team, as well as our city solicitor's office, we are all in agreement in reading our charter in that manner.
Okay. Anybody want to begin the discussion?
So, just to kind of flesh this out a little bit more, so, regardless of who is appointed to the seat, we would then still have to hold an election at the next regular election in order to permanently fill the vacancy, correct?
In November, yep.
That would be next year, and Mr. Nelson's seat did expire, his term expired the end of 2025.
Right.
So if you did appoint someone directly to that seat, then yes, whomever would be eligible for election. They'd run in as a general.
Right,
candidate.
so is it the general election or is it the next available election? Because we had that happen before, and the next available election is usually the June election. That's why I was asking, because,
Yes, you are correct. It would be the June election.
so if we appoint someone now, they would be appointed until June, when we do the school budget, and won't be any primaries, obviously, because there isn't any other elections at that point. So then they would have to run as a candidate along with whomever at that point. So is that,
Yes, at the next regular election. Is
Okay.
the
So,
term that's used.
but if the seat ends in November, why wouldn't the election be in November? Because they do school boards in June.
because it's the next city election, and that's the next city election. It's June.
And that's to fulfill the remainder of the term, which then expires in
months.
25.
Correct.
So you'd have to have it again
Which
for the
would-
normal
And
November.
they'd be elected again for a normal election of 4 years, and
It
next-
seems like a lengthy process when we could just run it till November.
you can't. It's the next. It's at the next regular election of the city. So we went through this before, and we have precedence for this because the lady who left her seat, and I was elected that year, 12 years ago. I was appointed in November, the day after the elections, very similarly, to serve a month and a half early to fill out the term because I was running for the seat she was vacating, but she had a new job and had to do it 2 months early. So exactly what we're discussing about doing that with the person who was elected yesterday, we can do that. But that's but the next regular election of the city is June, and that was what we found out then. So I'm assuming that nothing has changed on that, because we don't have the right to change which election it is. It's the next. I think it's written as the next regular election of the city, which is June.
Correct.
It
The-
is, yeah.
The appointment takes place until the next regular election, and then the
Yeah.
person elected then serves the remainder of the term.
So I realize it's cumbersome, but that's the.
Yeah,
I think the intent at the time was to write in the charter that there's a certain expense associated with having a public election. So instead of running a special election, they said run it at the next one scheduled as a part of the ballot.
Mhm.
So June would be the next one.
Correct.
And then that person would go until the end of 2025.
Right.
so we'd appoint a person, they would run that chair till June, they'd have to get signatures and everything else to get it voted in again, and then they would have to sit in there until November, and then they would have to turn around and get more signatures to get reelected.
Correct.
Can we revise that process? We should look into that. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Well, it's highly unusual.
So in some, let's say Gary's position ended in 2027, would be no big deal. Because you'd be appointing somebody until the next regular election, which would be June.
Right.
And then they'd be running in the June election until 2027. So it'd be a longer period of time. So in this particular instance, it's a short time, times two. It's short.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but I guess it's. I guess the thing is, your idea is not wrong, but for risk of not sounding flip, we already saw what changing rules mid-game after we, to fit things, how that works, so probably not.
Right, yeah, no, yeah, okay, yeah, because I wasn't looking to flip things to.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
No, oh, I
Yeah.
totally get it, but I'm just saying it's just,
Good
Yeah.
discussion, though.
yeah,
You know.
yeah.
So the clock's ticking and we have a gap, what, 60 to 120 days to do this?
90 to 100, it says.
It's, so you have 30 days following the vacancy to appoint someone, or we do have to go, the clerk must call a special election to be held at least 90 days and no more than 120 days after the vacancy.
So,
Just for the record, if I could interrupt just briefly, Councilman, Gary passed away after the last regular council meeting, correct?
October 24th.
Yeah.
So we have till November
So-
24th.
So this is the first notice that we've had, following,
Right, so we'd have until our next meeting in December to figure out what we're gonna do, how we're going about doing it, and,
So technically, I guess, really, the options, well, I think you have till November 24th. I think we have to have a special meeting.
Correct it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So I guess basically we can have the expense of running a special election in the next 60 to 90 days. And then they would serve the entire time until November, whoever gets elected at that point. Or we can appoint someone and they have to run in June at the next regular election. And we can appoint someone early and vacate the seat from the election yesterday because they were elected to that seat. So we can certainly do that. But rather than take the time tonight, I mean, we could kind of discuss the different parameters of it and have maybe legal counsel give you like a list of like, here's your 3 scenarios. And then ask for requests for appointment like we did before with when we filled Derek's seat. And then have a special meeting before November 24th. You could do, that could be an option, or we could appoint someone tonight, and that could be an option. I'm totally open to whatever, but we do have a couple of weeks to go to decide if you want.
we could also split the difference because we have a workshop scheduled on the 13th. So we could put that on the agenda for the 13th if we
Yeah.
want to sit on this for 8 days.
Could do that too. So I don't know, I'm okay with any of them, whatever you want, frankly.
The meetings after that until the 24th.
Anybody else have anything to add, comment?
Can I make a motion?
Sure.
I'd move that we table this until our next budget meeting, which is November 13th, to where we would make a decision on the appointment to replace Gary Nelson.
Okay. I'll second that.
There's a motion to table item 10 on the consent agenda until the date of November 13th. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? I'm gonna abstain on that, so it's 5-1. 501. Next item is new business, 5-year fee schedule. I'll let the city manager talk about that and then maybe the finance department, maybe.
Yes, thank you. So as far as our 5-year fee schedule is concerned, we do have incremental, fee. Lost my words. We do have incremental increases within our fee schedule over the next few years. We have done we have done research with surrounding cities as well, and we do find that we are in line and competitive, but yet also ensuring that we are bringing the revenue into the city appropriately.
Does anybody from the finance department want to chime in on this? These are really negligible increases, like $1 and here and $1 there over a 4-year period, so these are not hundreds and thousands of dollars of changes, as I see them anyway, as presented. So, guys, got anything you want to add? Brad? Nothing?
No, just take a look at it and we can discuss that during the budget workshops when we're talking about the revenues and how we can change it.
You guys want to do that, or do you want to pass this tonight? What's the council's wish?
Yeah, I would
Rec-
move that we table it until the 13th budget meeting.
You want to wait? Okay. Is there a second to the table?
A second?
We're in the tabling mood tonight. All those in favor? Okay, all those opposed? 5-1-0. Motion passes. Next item on the new business is the Presque Development Fund for facade grant to Gary's Furniture and Appliance in Presque. Ask the city manager to talk about that.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is part of the the recently revised facade grant program. We do have Gary's Furniture who has applied, and this has gone through our planning board. There has been the Development Fund Board. They have recommended that we move forward with this. We have reviewed his plans as well as understood more of the concept of his design, and we do feel it's in line with the development of downtown as well as our facade. At this time, we do recommend, and I do believe Mr. Morrow is here to speak if you wish.
You have the floor if you'd like to, sir. Thanks for coming tonight. Welcome.
Great.
Evening, folks. I run Gary's Furniture. Charlie Brown come up to me and presented me with this facade grant application to fix up our old building, and I think it's a great idea. And, I've got a plan in place, just trying to get final approval, and then we're gonna go ahead with this next summer. Putting new glass in the building, new sign, fixing it up, make it look like the rest of, rest of the town kind of make it look better,
Perfect.
and hopefully it'll fly.
Great.
Thanks, Fred. Anybody have any questions for Fred?
No, I think that's fantastic. You know, there's been a lot of investment in our downtown. There's been a lot of different businesses that have done the same thing, and so that's super. Thanks for taking that on.
Thank you, guys.
Council have any other comments or discussion? I do think that this is a program that's been promoted through economic development and the Presque Development Fund for a few years now. And we've taken this to many of the downtown merchants, and I think one of the items is to try to bring our downtown up to a more improved, better looking, more inviting place to shop and to do business in. And so this is a good way to do that. It's capped at 100,000 per application, and that's what we're trying to approve this evening for Gary's Furniture and Appliance. So I appreciate you guys. This is not going to cover the entire cost. There's a matching part that goes with this, and looking forward to see it done next summer. So good luck getting a contractor. I've been there and done that. Anybody else have any other comments? Anybody like to make a motion? Item 12.
12. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to move that we accept the Presque Development Fund trustees' recommendation to approve the facade grant to Fred Morrow, doing business as Gary's Furniture and Appliance, in the amount of $100,000.
Been moved by Jeff,
Second?
seconded by Craig. Any other discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? 6-0. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Item 13 is, under new business, is to discuss the airport passenger terminal. So I'll ask the city manager to introduce it, and we'll hear from our airport manager.
I'm actually going to defer right to Mr. Scott Wardwell, who is the expert on this project, and he's got quite a bit to say.
Hi, Scott.
Good evening.
I don't know if they need to turn that button on or not, but you,
If you leave it there, it'll pick your voice up.
Okay.
On the podium.
All
Where it
right.
was. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this is going.
Yeah.
I got a pretty loud voice anyway. So anyway, I think we have 3 or 4 memos that I generated about this item in this project. The first memo I'd like to call your attention to is actually the one entitled Passenger Terminal Project Background. That has a number of bullet points that kind of describe the process that we went through to get us to this point. It started actually about 6 years ago with the airport master planning process that FAA requires us to do periodically. And I think a significant part of that process involved an 8-member technical advisory team that was made up of various stakeholders in the airport. And one of the things that we really keyed in on as part of that master planning process was to evaluate the current airport terminal. The current terminal was built in 1952. It was built as a Air Force fire station, certainly I think has served the federal taxpayer and the local citizens very well since 1952. So we went really through a pretty extensive process. Attached to that particular memo is a complete building survey that was completed by the same firm that was selected for the master planning process. I think it's also noteworthy that the firm that did the building assessment is not the same firm that actually did the engineering and architectural design for this new terminal. FAA kind of likes to split things up so that you don't get biased opinions. Over the last 2 or 3 years, at various points, I've engaged the city council on the funding of the design of the new terminal and actually paying for that. Plus, we were also engaged with raising funds for this. Most FAA projects are 95%. Usually the project itself is 100% FAA eligible, and then the FAA picks up 95%, state picks up 2.5%, and the airport through operating revenues, PFCs and such, covers the remaining 2.5%. With airport terminals, there tends to be a large portion of the terminal that is deemed FAA ineligible. In our case, the terminal itself, about 21% of the cost of the terminal is not FAA eligible. That's kind of the bad news. The good news is that a lot of the areas that aren't FAA eligible are areas that are occupied by the tenants of the passenger terminal. We have 3 primary tenants, the airline, TSA, and the car rental agencies. So their office space, really any space that the public can't get to and use, is deemed FAA ineligible. But obviously, we have the ability to charge rent for that space, and funding source to pay for the ineligible capital costs associated with this. We were, so the building itself is 79% FAA eligible. Let's take a walk out to the parking lot. The parking lot where paid parking occurs is also deemed ineligible because we're actually getting a source of revenue from that parking lot. The employee parking is not eligible either, nor is the rental car parking area. So essentially, as you walk outside, the only area, an improved area that's FAA eligible is the entrance road itself. So that turns out that only that piece of it's only about 45% FAA eligible. And, but yet again, we have funding sources for that. Obviously, people who pay the parking. When we get to the new terminal, the paid parking will be done significantly different than it is now. It'll be much, it'll be similar to how it's done at Portland and in Bangor. There won't be people putting those little tickets on your windshield and that kind of stuff. It will be a gated lot, which will require payment in order to on exit. So we think that will significantly improve our ability to capture the full revenue of the parking lot. We also did an analysis, financial analysis, that basically said, well, what if we don't charge parking and the parking becomes FAA eligible? Does that make financial sense? That analysis indicated that you would be leaving about, over a period of time, you'd be leaving about 50% of the revenue on the table. Okay, so, and then the third part of the project, the apron, the parking where the aircraft actually parks, that is 100% eligible. Okay, so the FAA will cover 95% of the cost of that. All in all, the FAA will have a significant, by far the most significant investment in this facility. And FAA will funnel those funds to us through no fewer than 3 grants, biggest of which we got through a congressional designated spending action by Senator Collins and Senator King. That was just over $20 million. In addition to that, we also were awarded a grant of $1 million from the Northern Border Council. And of course, that actually we could apply to the 100% ineligible stuff. With all that said, that's kind of the background, so to speak, of the project. There's also a memo that kind of, in more detail, goes over the passenger terminal funding plan, and that's kind of shows you exactly where the funds are coming from, and it also gives you a couple options, actually 3 options, which one option being that we don't get any more grant money over the next 9 months. The next option would be if we are able to secure a $5 million timber grant through Northern Borders. And then there's additional option. We're in discussions with TSA to actually pay for their portions of their office space, where they would make a initial payment to cover the capital costs associated with that. And then option 4 would include all of the previous plus the award of a LEVER grant, which we've applied for, and that's valued over $2 million. So what I've done here in this funding plan is essentially give you a feel for how much you would be borrowing. And right now, the most favorable place to actually borrow these funds appears to be USDA Rural Development. The interest rates would be 3.25%, and you can actually borrow that money over a 40-year term. 40-year term certainly, lessens the payments initially that the tenants have to cover in rent. And finance department is working with me to investigate the rural development loan program. They've also looked at other bonding options, so on and so forth. This is very typical of how airports fund projects such as this. I think most of you probably have been to the Portland Jetport within the last 5 or 6 years. There was a significant addition there. That did not come out of the pockets of the city of Portland taxpayer either. They have a more direct, more direct funding mechanism. They actually use the passenger facility charges to actually pay the bond back. Unfortunately, with our much lower boardings than Portland Jetport, our revenues from passenger facility charges certainly wouldn't cover the loan payments, so we have to really do it through the terminal rent. The worst case option is that we get no more grant money, no new grants, and the remaining funds that we would have to borrow would be $12,063,628. And then that number, depending on the option, continues to drop down to when you get to the option number 4, we would be required to finance $2.5 million. And at the end of this memo, the resolve is that City Council authorized the city manager to finance up to $12,063,628 for the purposes of constructing a passenger terminal building, passenger terminal site and utilities, and the passenger terminal ramp. Some people might ask the question, well, why don't we just hold off and see what else we get for grants and stuff like that? We certainly can do that, but you're not gonna turn dirt in April. You will more than likely lose an entire year, because what happens is they're gonna have to start this project in April so they can get enough of it done. So when winter sets in the following winter, work can continue on with it. obviously, you can do winter construction these days, outside, but construction does that. But that comes at significant extra cost. So that's another one of these memos.
So Scott, is that why you're not entertaining option 4?
Excuse me?
Is that why you're not entertaining option 4? Is because of the fact you'd have a late start and you wouldn't get it done until next year?
Well, what we're gonna do, Hank, is we'll continue throughout the winter to basically try to get all the way to option 4. All of those additional funding opportunities would be able to be in place by May or June of next year, and we'll aggressively go after those. But as you know, contractors have to be awarded, and on this particular item, there's going to be a lot of lead time items. It's further complicated by the Buy America Act. There's going to have to be a lot of work done to make sure all of these materials are being sourced through U.S. sources. So what the contractor, especially the building contractor, has said, we'd like to have a go-ahead on this by November 15th. And if we go much past that, then it puts the ability to start in April in jeopardy. It also puts the current pricing in jeopardy. And jumping to the contractors, there's 2 additional memos. One is for awarding the passenger terminal building itself. Okay, we're recommending that it be awarded to AZ Corp. For their bid of $38,455,000. That is the low bidder by a significant amount. For folks who aren't familiar with AZ Corp, AZ Corp is actually part of Chimbro, which has been a state of Maine general contractor for several years. And the last memo is actually asking you to award passenger terminal apron to Soderberg Construction, low bidder, for $4,252,325. And that is the whole thing, and I'm sure people have questions.
Well, I'd like to ask you to go back over the Portland Jetport comparison you made, that they were talking about funding through a passenger charge to enable them to pay for the construction cost. And that was in lieu of tax dollars in Portland paying for the construction costs. So you made that clear, but you didn't say that Presque taxpayers aren't paying for any of this.
That's it. That's a very good point.
You get a chance to say that now.
Yeah. None of these options involve local taxpayers paying for this project. FAA recommends and highly encourages that airports self-finance things, okay? They don't want you to operate in the red. That was one of the reasons why in 2014 we recommended to City Council that the airport be operated as at least at a break even, and hopefully enough to build up some reserve, that kind of thing. And same concept applies here. The users of the airport basically pay for it. And unfortunately, our passenger facility charges are capped by Congress at $4.50 a ticket. Actually per segment, but thin. So, you know, even boarding 20,000, which we did last year, that still is less than $100,000, and that certainly will not float this kind of loan.
Any
Yes, Doug.
other questions? Doug?
What's the ETA for completion?
Essentially, if we're able to start in April, the architects are estimating 18 months.
Okay. And just for the public's info, I believe you had mentioned, I don't know which direction, north, south, east, west, but it's going to be located closer to town? From
Only slightly. It will be located just south of the existing terminal.
Okay, that's what I meant. So it's just all in the same spot and everything. Just there's kind of a bunch of trees, almost kind of wetland area looking. It's gonna be in that rough area.
That's it. That's correct.
Okay.
You know, if I could be king for a day, it would be fabulous to put this down off in runway 1028, kind of down by the National Guard Readiness Center, so that you could see this wonderful looking building from town, so on and so forth, and we could better control our entrance, so to speak, and the presentation thereof. But really the most practical spot is to put it fairly close to the current one.
One other question. Obviously, the grant unknownness changes a lot of these rents per month. Is there? I'm not privy on the details, but I mean, in worst case scenario, say for example, says car rental rent per month $9,000. Is that a fee that you would charge to the vendor to be there?
In the case of the car rental companies, what I'm recommending there is a source of income from them through a 10% commission, and what we would do to really significantly lessen the sting for the car rental company is actually use that revenue to significantly offset the capital costs associated with them. The other two entities, obviously TSA is a federal agency, and has access to significantly greater resources than a little private business running a car rental company. And also in the case of the airline, when we time this correctly, to have it coincide with a bid period, what we will do is we will build these rents, we'll make them available to the bidding airlines ahead of time, and they will build those right into their bid to USDOT. Okay, so the whole thing is to get the tenants to participate, but in the case with one tenant where, you know, it would be very difficult, very difficult to cover that cost. Use some different options of using other revenues that they bring to the table.
So say that one, for example, $9,000. That's worst case scenario. Best case scenario is $273. So what do you do with your magic wand where you were coming up with the other 9,000 a month, where does that
That- that
save in general? Is it the less cost to the public when they're renting a car, or more revenue for the airport to pay for whatever it may be, or?
Essentially, what would happen in the case of $273 for monthly rent, and that just includes the capital cost, right? There's also operational costs, but in that case, we would have to divert less of the concession fee to cover the capital cost, and it would reduce more than likely the cost charged for like landing fees of the airline, that kind of thing. Because what we're looking at the end of the day, okay, is that bottom line, like next week, when I submit my budget to you, okay, that bottom line, we want that breaking even or in the positive. Back before 1978, in the deregulation of the airline industry, the way airport fees were determined and what airlines were charged, because the airlines had long-lasting relationships with the airports that they served, because they were USDOT designated routes. What would happen is all of the expenses associated with the airport would get added up, all of the revenues would get added up, and what was left over essentially rolled to increase fees to the airline. And that's a very valid model, and it's actually the model that I've used since 2014.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying that's a large difference, and you must have a target number that you're comfortable with to charge the rental or TSA or what have you. So if we, long story short, if we end up getting all these grants, is it worth financing that over a much shorter period of time? Because
It's very possible that would be the smart thing to do.
and that's
and,
able to be, that can be free flowing, that can be determined down the road.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, as you might have been referencing, bond banks typically are fixed, so you sign up and that's it, no prepayment. This USDA thing, that's correct, right, Scott? You're talking about USDA?
Yeah,
Yep.
USDA is one of the options that Northern Maine Development Commission recommended, and when I had Brad and Laura look at it, at least initially that looks like the best deal for us. We're trying to schedule a meeting next week with USDA. Lucky for us, the lady who runs this loan program throughout the state of Maine actually is located right here in Presque.
So, what you're suggesting, if the numbers work out, it could be done a little quicker payout, put the numbers back up.
That's all I got.
Thank you.
How many parking spots for the public would be in the lot that we charge for?
It's 117.
Okay.
It's actually more, significantly more spots than we have now. I think we have like 70 now or 79.
Yep.
So we've actually programmed in some growth,
Mhm.
and where we're locating that lot, there'll actually be the opportunity for some pretty easy expansion too.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Is that lot designed to be, or intended to be on the same side of the street as the terminal?
Yes, it'll be on the same side of the street, so we don't have people walking across.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that money raised from that available to pay the loan?
Yes, that will actually pay a portion of the loan as well.
Okay.
Scott, couple quick questions. Option 1, 2, and somewhat on option 3, are you increasing the rent for a lot of these people significantly to make it? Because, for example, like
these are significant, these would be significant rent increases. Because essentially the building that they're in now, there's really no capital costs associated with it. It's simply maintenance costs. But again, the whole theory is with TSA, it's a federal agency, and with the airline, they will have the opportunity to build these increased rents into their proposal to USDOT.
how about the car rental? 'Cause that's a lot more than what.
The car rentals,
Yeah.
basically what I am recommending there is we use revenue from our concession fees, because
What in the concession fees? That's also listed separately, though, right?
the
Or
concession
is that
fees aren't actually listed here.
So what's
Those
the
are fixed at 10%.
What's the concession fees that you have listed under option 1, 2, and 3?
Essentially, what our revenue for concession fees run between $75,000, $80,000 a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the 12 million that you guys are asking for now, or looking at, why do we need to have that approved now before we can start? Because we wouldn't be paying that out for a year or two. Am I right? Does it have to be already committed, like on hand, to start construction, or?
It doesn't, okay, but what I kinda wanted to do tonight was kind of bring the whole thing to you. Because we're really getting to the point now where are we gonna do this, or aren't we gonna do this? And I saw, as part of that whole process, I felt it important to kinda share with you what the different financing options look like, and what you were essentially signing up for.
So,
But if you wanted to, tonight, if you basically wanted to say, okay, we're gonna award these two contracts, and we're gonna hold off on approving the financing part of this, you can do that. I just didn't think it was, I wanted you to see the whole picture, because I'm talking big numbers now, and you know, I didn't want you to award the projects not knowing what potentially you might have to borrow.
so we could award it tonight, but hold off on the 12 mil with hopes that interest rates may drop if we to do it later. So that would not hinder the actual beginning of the construction.
No, well,
Anybody
If
else?
the interest rates drop, can you refinance with the same place?
excuse me?
Over here. If the interest rates drop, can you refinance it through the same program?
I don't know all the details associated with the U.S. Department of Agriculture Rural Development loan. That's one of the things we're going to take a look at, hopefully next week.
Well, I guess my concern with delaying that is we absolutely need that to complete the project. It says up to, so if you get all these grants, then you're only going to finance $3 million or whatever. But who's to say if none of the stars align that in a year, for some reason, it's voted down to approve financing that, then the entire thing blows up. So I would just be more comfortable sealing the deal, kind of, especially knowing that we don't want any mishaps and we need this shovels turning ASAP.
The other thing too is that for budget purposes, you're at 3.2 roughly quoted right now, and nothing's saying it couldn't go up. So, that's probably historically a pretty, for a 40-year period, that's
Not bad.
not a bad deal.
Yeah, take the money and put it in a CD at a higher rate.
If the interest rates went up. Yeah.
So, yeah, so I just kind of was just running some numbers just to kind of put some perspective to it. And if you have the 12,063,000, I guess that's the number, huh? 40 years at 3.25%, that's a payment of $539,000 a year. So let's put that in perspective. That payment is only about $39,000 more than what we paid to buy our rec center. So, you know, that was something we did a number of years ago at bond rates that were half of what this is. And the city has well absorbed that expense, and that isn't even a question on our budget. It's just part of our financing. And so just to give you a sense of, you know, of what that dollar amount means, and again, we're not talking about the taxpayers' payments, but I just kind of want to put in perspective the amount of money that we're talking about that would pay this off. The other part of it is 117 spots in a parking lot. You know, as the flights, and we're seeing people using the airline, and you know, perhaps more service to come. 117 spots at $9 a car for 30 days. You're talking a maximum revenue of those 117 spots of $379,000. Now, we know we aren't going to fill every spot every day, but my point is that that's significant, even if it's half of that. You know, there's you know, 150,000, and then if I take the ticket expense of the $4.50 a ticket, and if we have, you know, the magic 30,000-ish people, we were kind of hoping to get 10,000 more. There's another 150,000, so that you've got, you know, some, you know, 300,000 between those two items potentially to put towards this from your budget. So I guess my point is that they're big numbers, but so aren't the other facets of it. And so just to kind of give some context.
Look, just to interject, this is all airport money, so
Right.
when it comes down to it, I appreciate the comparison of the rec center, but he has this budgeted based on rent returns,
Mhm.
that no matter what we get for grants,
Mhm.
it's not going to cost the city anything.
Right.
So it's not affecting the tax dollars one way or another.
Right.
So, and I guess that would be the one thing, if the news is here, to stress that
Yeah,
this
no.
is not affecting the tax dollars. We're not sliding this in as another loan expires.
Third time
This
we've
is
mentioned that.
completely separate.
Yeah, no, and that's my point. But I guess my point is just saying that in our community's history of doing large projects, this isn't an inordinate amount of money based on other things we've done. I guess is my point, just saying that this is not the largest thing we've ever done. This isn't the, you know, the biggest item that we're gonna ever deal with in our budget. But I just wanted to put some sense to the fact that we, you know, we certainly have quite a few revenue items here that, of course, we didn't put any numbers to, and I was just trying to give you some context of it. But no, it's certainly not in our city budget in that manner. So that's exactly right.
Can I
So-
just ask, so I've been out of the loop for a year, it was a $30 million project when we were looking at it then, and now it's 52. Big change, I guess, just what
Yeah,
happened, I guess.
Basically, one of the big things that the cost, just the general building cost, and we also did some things early on when we were talking numbers. We tended to focus on the building itself. Okay, we didn't focus a lot on the aircraft ramp. And we didn't really talk a lot about the parking lot and that part of things. So that 38 million or whatever that is going to go to AZ construction, that's what we really talked. We talked a lot about that. And as we've added two other things in, it's obviously gotten larger. But that's a valid question, cause I asked the same thing, right?
And on the $38 million building, have we removed all the non-FAA fundable, like the Air Museum and things that are hard to justify paying $1,500 a square foot for?
The interesting thing is we got really creative on the area where the museum items are gonna be, and essentially that's fully FAA eligible. So you're only, for the museum area, you're really only paying 2.5 cents on the dollar. Yeah. That's one of the things, by the way, you know, I always look at these things and kind of say to myself, well, geez, you know, why don't we have this ineligible stuff all put to bed, right? Well, the thing is, there was a lot of time spent at getting the FAA money, and when we originally proposed to FAA that, hey, we've done a design that is 79% eligible, the building itself, they said, that's really high. We're gonna have to really question that. And they did. And we worked really hard to justify all of the areas that we felt was eligible. And the place where the museum items are gonna be was one of those areas. It's actually an area that passengers can use. It's an observation kind of deck thing. And if people arrive early to a flight, we're gonna do some creative things with the main terminal itself, with turning down heat and turning down air conditioning. They'll be able to arrive to the smaller area and kind of wait until the larger area opens up.
I think, you know, from listening to this detailed discussion, I'd be in favor of awarding all of these all at once, because you are going to be talking to banks and grants, and you don't want to say, well, this is what we need now, but we need to come back later and do something else. So I would probably be in favor of doing all of these resolves now, because as one counselor just said, if you take one of these legs off the stool, it falls over, it stops. So you got to do them all. So. Scott, there's a lot of detail here. Thanks a lot. I really feel, don't go anywhere yet, but I do feel like you've done a tremendous job, and I for one want to say, great effort. I know this means a lot to you, and it's a passion of yours, and we're lucky that you're on our team doing this, because I don't know, quite frankly, if anybody else can really follow in those footsteps and take it to this level. As you have for what, I think we've been talking about this for 3 years now. So,
Yeah,
and
actually,
as part of your master plan, that goes way back before 3 years. So,
actually, the master plan in 2000 talked about increasing the need to increase the size of the security area.
anybody else have a comment they want to jump in on? Anybody want to make a motion? And I'll fight over it at once.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the city council authorize the city manager to award the passenger terminal apron contract to Soderberg Construction for the total of $4,252,325. Addition.
Sorry.
Should we do these all separately, or can we do them
They're doing it
Either-
separately.
as one? Additionally, I'd like to authorize.
Yeah, let's do them
Separate.
separate.
Do them separate? Okay,
Separate.
all right. So,
Second.
Been moved by Jeff, seconded by Craig. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? All those opposed, 6-0. Would someone like to make a second motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the city council authorize the city manager to award the passenger terminal building contract to AZ Corporation for a total of $38,455,000.
Second.
Moved by Jeff, seconded by Doug. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? No abstentions, 6-0. Thank you.
And additionally, I'd like to make a motion that the city council authorize the city manager to finance up to $12,063,628 for the purposes of constructing a passenger terminal building, passenger terminal site and utilities, and a passenger terminal ramp.
Moved by Jeff, seconded by Craig. Any other discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? 3-2. Abstention? We're missing a vote.
Oh, I said no.
I said no.
Yeah, that's 2. You
So
said
yes.
yes. You
I
guys
said
were
yes.
yes.
That was yes.
4-2. 4-2 in favor. All right, thank you very much. Is that it for this evening?
I hope so.
Yeah, I would say.
Well, isn't bad. It was only 40 minutes. It wasn't bad. We're talking about real money here. Holy cow. It takes some time.
Yeah, it's a real project.
It's a real deal. Looking forward to that. Item 14 is ballistic vest for the police department. So we'll ask the city manager to talk about this a little bit, and maybe Mr. Hayes might be here. Chief Hayes?
Yes,
He's
thank
back.
you, Mr. Chair. It was brought to our attention that our police department had the opportunity to improve the ballistic vests that they utilize. Currently, the vests that they utilize are not appropriate for the line of work that they do, and they are not capable of stopping high power impact. So with that, Chief Hayes, if you want to come up and talk more about it.
Hope I'm not up for 40 minutes.
Even it won't be.
I guess it wouldn't be
We've already pretty much discussed that.
out of order, as we can give equal time, but I don't think it'll take that long.
I'm not an expert
Thank you, sir.
in ballistic vests, I will tell you that, but I've talked to an awful lot of people who are. So, this is what we carry right now. This is a level 2A vest, what I carry for 18 years, what my guys still carry. And what they carry that I've never carried is this outer carrier. So the outer carrier has no ballistic value whatsoever. It is just there so they can carry their extra ammo, their tasers, their body cams. It's just basically they can slot all the material there. Slot all their material there. It has no function. So this is the vest I carried for 18 years. And as you can see on the very first page, I circled what this 2A will stop. And as you can see, it's very, very basic. Basically a 9mm and a 40. That's all this ballistic vest will stop.
Wow.
Times have changed. So this is the new one that I want to go with. This is a level 3 vest. And if you'll see, I put a square around what that will stop. This will stop any firearm, handgun on the market today. Any handgun, this level 3 will stop. The proposal is to have an additional plate that I can put here and here as well that could stop something of an armor-piercing nature. If they have that, we have seen those as well, unfortunately, coming into the area. So this is a heavy-duty level 3 vest. I'll let you guys, I'll probably give you both of those. It's much heavier, but it stops, as I said, a hell of a lot more than the level 2 ever could. But what this cannot do, and what no daily carrier vest can do, is stop a rifle round. And unfortunately, as you see on the news, that is what everybody seems to be using lately, is what we're pulling off drug dealers in the area. AR-15s, any type of high-powered AR rifle is being used. So if you go to the second page, you will see where I'm looking to go through as a second carrier. It is rifle plates. So those rifle plates that I have circled will stop anything. They will stop an AR-15. So if we went to an active shooter situation, if we went to a barricaded subject, if we went to a exigent search warrant, which we've been doing a lot lately, that is a secondary vest that they would put on. They would not be using that every day. They would be using the level 3 carrier every day, because that particular vest will weigh close to 40 to 50 pounds. It is what the military use when they go into a combat zone. So that would be set next to them. They get that horrific call that they gotta go. They would throw that directly over what they're already wearing, their vest. They would come completely over their head. They would put on their ballistic helmet, and they will go. Right now, I have my officers training every 2 months. This is the first time in the history of the PD's ever done this. We train every 2 months as a unit for situations like that: active shooter, exigent circumstances when it comes to search warrants, barricaded subjects. We are dealing with some major players up here now, Presque. Some very serious people who will do anything in their power to protect their product. We need to be ready for that. We need to be ready for that lone shooter situation. And this is the only way that, one, the officers can maintain a certain level of safety, and two, stay in the fight. The equipment that they have it right now, if they were to go to that lone shooter situation, if they were to get shot, obviously they would be dead, and then they are no help to the public whatsoever. This type of equipment that they would wear, if they were to get shot, they would survive the shot, and they could still maintain and stay in the fight, which is the most important thing to save the public. And that is pretty much the presentation. The estimate on the back is we shopped around a couple of different places. This particular individual is from New Hampshire. He was a cop for 25 years. He started his own company in ballistic vests, and he actually physically came up to us at a chief's meeting and showed us his product. Not only did he do that, he said that if we do order through him, he will physically come up and size every single officer individually. He'll spend the entire day up here in Presque sizing them, which is an important part of this. The vest will expire. The level 3 vests expire every 5 years. The rifle plate vest won't expire until every 10 years. So we're going to get an awful lot of life out of these things moving forward. Now, my plan before the city manager spoke to me about possibly using our ARPA funds for this was to literally buy 3 or 4 at a time every year and make it as a budgetary item. Doug brought up a very good point. The last time we had a meeting, he said, how do you choose who gets it, who doesn't? And that's the tough job of being chief of police. You don't, and you hope that, one, it never happens, or two, you hope that the officers that do go to that incident have the equipment that you bought for them. It's a horrible situation, stuff that makes chiefs physically ill, but unfortunately, we don't have the kind of money that we want all at once sometimes for something like this. It is $55,000 we're talking about here, so it's a lot of money. But it will buy 20 level 3 vests, the carriers, all the rifle plates, the helmets, everything that they would need to go into a war zone. It's pretty much what we're talking about here. And it's not, as you know, it's 20 years ago, I would never have this conversation with you. And honestly, as being a cop for 20 years, I would never think we'd even have this conversation. But we saw it down in Lewiston, and we saw what he used. Thank God most of the officers that were down south were equipped if they want to take a shot. We are not state police, and the warden service, they're all going to these tactical situations as well. So, you know, the old adage used to be, well, that's what SWAT teams are used for. Well, that was before the days of active shooter. We can't wait for 3 hours for a SWAT team to come. We gotta go, and we gotta stay in the fight. Most likely in Presque, I'm gonna have 3 officers on at a time. That's 3 officers going into a war zone to stop a lone shooter or multiple shooters. So if 1 or 2 of them go down because they don't have the right equipment, then we are out of the fight, and then a lot more people are gonna die. So
you bit off a couple of my questions. So one of them, which is, and I don't take it this the wrong way, Chris, but are the state police and sheriff's department currently running this equipment
No.
right now?
No, as far as I know, we would probably be the only ones in Worcester County who's going to be running this. Down
They're-
south, yes, everybody's running.
They're moving in this direction, but they haven't been able to do it yet.
I don't know what the state police
Okay.
so are looking to do in the future.
Okay.
I'm sure the warden service, I know they are going to this because I have them right now sitting in my PD that they're handing out to wardens. So but what the SO and state police are doing, I do not know.
The wardens are getting, the wardens, out of any.
Yeah, the wardens, yeah, well, they deal with a lot of rifles.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well, and I think big thing for them is isolation.
yeah.
They are really out in the middle of nowhere.
I'm assuming this might be just a typo. You have the level 4 vest structured, but on the quote it says level 3.
Yeah, so, and I asked them that, the plates are regarded as level 4, but technically is what they say is there's no level 4 when it comes to a vest. Everything is level 3 with level 4 armor put inside of it.
Okay, so even though it says level 3, the pricing is correct for
The
this
pricing
level
is
4.
correct, that is not.
Thank you.
No problem.
Anybody else have any questions for Chief Hayes?
No, we had the good fortune to have a nice tour of your facility about a month ago and met with some of the officers, and they described this exact situation to us, and I think that was quite a wake-up call to us. So, you know, I think certainly fully supportive of that, and you know, in the general scheme of what we spend on lots of things in the community, this is not a big ask to be something we buy for the protection of our officers, because you know, again, like you said, this is things that we have had extraordinary situations in the last few years. We've had multiple instances of people with guns that we've had to shoot, and so our officers have encountered this more than any other community in Maine over the last few years. And so even though we may think that we are in a maybe slightly more violent version of Mayberry, we're not in Mayberry anymore. We're in a very different situation, and it's led to a great deal of professionalism that's been brought to our police force, and you guys are doing a wonderful job. But the last thing I want to do is cheap out on protection.
100%.
Yeah. So, quick question, you're quoted at 20, that's gonna cover the entire force that you have currently, right?
That is correct,
Okay.
yeah. Well, right now we have 3 openings, so yes, it would cover the openings and it would cover everybody else in the PD.
Okay.
If we're ever to expand more, then we obviously.
Right. And so that's for helmets and everything to protect a person's center mass. And you said we have this growing need for this level of protection. Do you ever see yourself in the future where you're gonna need something similar like full body armor? Because, I mean, legs and arms are still exposed as well.
Yes, it has been brought up, and yes, it's somewhere down the line, yes. There was no doubt that they have to be outfitted completely. This is one step that, closer to that, but yes, it's gonna come to that. There was absolutely no doubt it's gonna come to that. We are so isolated. We have a lot of agencies around us, which is wonderful. But we are at least 3-4 hours away from any kind of attack team situation where they have more equipment than God. We just can't rely on them. We just can't. So yes, at some point we're going to get to that point.
And just for justification and showing you the necessity of this, it's you were running, well, you probably still are running monthly call reports, and wasn't the city getting 3 times the calls of the entire sheriff's department for the whole county?
We are double the sheriff's department, I believe, double the state police, and we are 3 to 4 times any other agency in University County.
So, in a way, just because the sheriffs or whomever doesn't have it, doesn't mean that. I mean, they're getting half the calls.
Yes,
If you look at it on a volume
we
basis.
have a higher call volume than anything else out there, and more dangerous calls and more higher incidents than any other agency in University County. You have to go down to Bangor to see any kind of numbers even close to what we're getting.
And it's kind of a life insurance for them. Well, it is life insurance, but you know, everyone's having trouble recruiting, and this is another way to show them that, you know, we're serious about your safety. We understand that this is a busier department, but we're not flinging you to the wolves and hoping that you make it.
Yes, yes. The days of just handing them a gun or buying your own gun and you didn't even have a vest, you know, this shows that we actually, we care, and we wanna put them in that situation. But more so too for the public, it's also, you know, to keep them in the fight. It's a huge thing, you know.
Anybody else have any other comments or questions?
55 grand for this type of protection is a drop in the bucket, especially for 20 people. A good fire suit for racing's 2 grand. That's for one person, you know, and these guys are, it's the day and age. They need this stuff.
I'm a little surprised to hear the other departments aren't using them right now. Is this relatively new, or like just came out this year?
Oh
or-
God, no, down in the Augusta area and all that, they've been using some things like this for years. I think, I wouldn't be surprised if every department next 5 to 6 years will be going this way, especially the bigger ones. Obviously, like Lewiston, Augusta, and Portland. You know, we are the biggest department in a 400-mile square area, and we are the busiest. So, us making this logical step with the calls that we're seeing now and the issues that we're having with the opioid epidemic, it's probably should have happened a year or two ago, to be honest.
I've got one a question. You said that the life expectancy on the vest was 5 years?
5 years.
Now, are you now that you're going to have these? Is there a mechanism in place that you have to have them replaced every 5 years, or can they be inspected?
No,
Can
they
you
have
can't
to
use
be
your judgment on it? Is 5 years the date on the tag? It's trash.
Date on the tag.
Okay.
That's what we've done with all these vests throughout the
Okay.
20 years. Once that tag, what I usually do is I order the vest 4 months before the tag.
Okay.
So there's no,
Yep.
no question.
Yep.
And then
It's similar to the harnesses and stuff that we use at work. Even though you don't use them in 5 years, they still
Yep.
have that wear, that tear,
Yep.
that expectancy, so it's better to replace.
So you just build it into your budget.
That's what we're going to do.
Yes.
for the
From
future.
here on
Yeah,
out.
We're going to do it like this. Yeah, we build it or put it in the reserve, 10 grand put aside every single year, so then it'll be that big purchase again. So
In
we
5
wanna do
years.
something like this.
Okay.
Ready for a motion?
I'm ready if you guys are done discussing it.
Well, Mr. Chair, I authorize that the Presque Police Department purchase 20 Class 3 ballistic protection vests utilizing ARPA funds at a cost of $54,940.
Second that.
Moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Williams. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, all those opposed? 6-0, thank you. Next item is item 15, contract for Aroostook Mental Health Center and plus Police Department for behavioral support services. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. We'll ask the city manager to introduce this topic.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So as many know, AMHC has partnered with with our police department for quite a while now. They have been co-located. They have an individual within our police department that has assisted with calls, and it's been a great benefit to our police force. At this time, we just wanted to move forward to have a formal contract in place for this. Well, ask Chris if he wants to say anything else on this piece.
So about 2 years ago was when I first spoke to AMHC about coming to help us with mental health calls. Going back through the numbers, back in 2016 to 2020, we're averaging about 5 or 6 mental health calls a year. We are now averaging close to 1,100 a year. My officers just didn't know what to do. We just had outreach services, what to offer these people, we just had no idea. So I finally convinced AMHC to come to our building. The only thing that they requested was an office in our building, which we gave them. 6 months ago, they moved in. Since they have moved in, they have done 309 assessments and co-response with us. So we are very different to the state. The state has a very similar co-responding, but their clinicians stay in the office. They pick up the phone and they call these people and outreach that way. Our clinicians actually put on a bulletproof vest and they jump into the car with us and they go to all the calls with us. This is at no expense to us whatsoever. AMHC pay the salaries of these 2 individuals who are with us. The only thing that the contract was kind of brought up for the first time a couple of months ago, but the question was, what happens if an AMHC worker gets hurt on the job? Whose insurance carrier covers it? Is it the cities or is it AMHC's? So that's when I brought the contract to them for the first time. they decided that, yes, AMHC will take care of their own people, we will take care of our own as well. The only thing that they wanted in the contract was to make sure that we train them, which we do, that we give them an office, which we do, that we give them a vest, which we do, and that we share all the wealth of information so they can do their job as well, which we do. And they, on the other hand, they provide us the paperwork, all the services that we need, certain information that they can give us that is not a HIPAA violation, and they pay the salaries of their own people. So this is the working contract we're going to go with for now. I did shop it to people who are a hell of a lot smarter than me with Courier, and I called MMA, sent them this contract as well. They okayed it, the city manager okayed it, and this is the working contract that we're going to go with for right now, because I approve it.
So you've had a relationship right now with these people, but basically operating without a document, and it's
Correct.
gone pretty good so far, right?
Yes, it's been extremely successful. We've had no issues whatsoever. It was brought up, the insurance thing was brought up, and then there was a possible HIPAA violation that was brought up. And we had a contract, we couldn't share that information. We didn't have the contract, so we couldn't share the information. So it just kind of opens it up a little bit more for us to have that MOU together.
Last question, guys, is from me is what's the term of the contract?
It's going to be a yearly contract.
You're gonna go 12 months.
Just every
Okay.
year we'll take a look at it and see if we need to add additions or take things away.
Anybody else have any questions for Chief Hayes?
Yeah, I have one. So obviously your guys are all trained in handling severe situations. What kind of training are the AMHC employees going to have for training to protect themselves, or is that where the police department is going to step in and take care of handling all that?
No, so when they came in the first time, we spent a whole day doing scenario-based training with them and training them in situations where if the scene wasn't safe, what to do. Most of the time, they will stay in the car. We will make the scene safe straight off the bat. Then we come back, we'll ask them to come in. They don't just walk in with us anytime. We make the scene safe. But we did train them how to use the radio. God forbid, if an officer goes down, what to do, how to call for help and stuff like that. So they are trained in those situations.
Right.
Anybody else? Sounds like you got a lot of expertise that can do nothing but help the situation.
My dad always said, "You're as dumb as a brick, surround yourself with some smart people," so that's what I do. Smarter people than me.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we allow Chief Hayes to continue and sign the contract with AMHC for support services.
I'll second it.
Moved by Craig and seconded by Hank. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? 6-0. Thank you. That brings us to the manager's report for this evening.
It's actually out of order. We can go to the outside of the
Okay.
except the formatting was off on that. Or, I mean,
Now let's go to the outside requests. Let's do the 2024 budget workshop. So we're at 7:40 right now. So who's our first outside request? How you doing? Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm Kathy Hoppy with the Maine, Lake Stewards of Maine, a volunteer nonprofit organization. We have statewide services. A little history on us. A lot of people bump into us as far as the work we do, but they don't necessarily know who we are. We started in the 70s when they realized that there were over 6,000 lakes in Maine and there was no way that we were going to keep track of how healthy they are if there were problems. So in order to do that, we started recruiting volunteers, citizen scientists, and started training them, developed a method,
And for about 15 years or so, it was housed in the Maine Department of Environmental Protection. It spun off about 30 years ago, into its own nonprofit. So we're now 503c, been operating for over 30 years, monitoring lake water quality, teaching volunteers to do that. Also maintaining a website, which I gave you a QR code so you can bump to it real quick and look up some lake you like to fish. On that website you will find like depth maps, water quality information. We're doing an upgrade right now. Sometime next year you'll also have some aquatic invasive plant information. About 20 years ago, when we started worrying about invasive plant species, you probably heard of Eurasian milfoil. If you have a boat, you buy a boat sticker. So we got concerned about invasive plant species taking over our lakes. Again, how are we going to keep track of 6,000 lakes? Train our volunteers, train people who are out there, fishermen, people who have lakefront properties, people who like to jet ski, whatever. They're out on the lake regularly, they see things that change. So we train again volunteers. Our whole organization is about training volunteers. And then collecting the data and making it available. One of the things we do when we train volunteers is do what we call live plant IDs. We actually did one here in Presque this summer, and we had 2 of your staff, Tyler Clark and Tricia, both attended. They were concerned about plants in Mantle Lake. We said, go get your plants. We identified them. Thank God they're native. They're muskgrass. But so we are offering programs here in Presque and in the county. We're actually expanding our work in the county. We're doing a program called Jumpstart, where we're bringing up volunteers, we call them our travel team, dedicated people on their own time are coming up here and surveying lakes. We pay for their lodging. Everything we do is for free. We don't charge anything. We surveyed Portage Lake and Munson Pond in 2023. This year we did Cross, Madawaska, and Black Lakes. So again, we didn't charge anything. We work with volunteers. We don't want to charge volunteers because they're giving us their time. We count that as valuable. So we look towards communities with lakes. We look for lake associations, businesses to support us, foundations. We get less than 40% of our budget is government, but we have to raise the other 60%. And the amount of money we get from the government's not increasing. You know how that goes. When I say the government, it's like the legislature, they help fund some of the invasive species work, and the Maine DEP gives us money for water quality monitoring.
So you're asking for $500,
$500.
and how is that gonna help you guys?
It's gonna help pay for it, so like when we train a volunteer, we buy scopes and Secchi discs to do that. So we have to buy the equipment, we have to come up here and train the volunteers. And we came up here and trained the volunteers of plant species. So it helps us with our training is what it comes down to. Training and equipment. And just because I want to make a plug for your lakes, because I want you guys to realize you got some important situation here. 3 of your lakes are all in the high risk category for invasive species. And we used to think that it's coming up the Interstate 95, we need to look across the border. If you guys are paying attention to fishing, you know there's the muskie. Now we have zebra mussels, and we have the best water quality for zebra mussels on eastern Aroostook County because they like calcium. And what do we have? Limestone. So I wanted to make you aware of that anyway. You have 3 lakes that are at risk. So I don't know if you'd like to know anything more about the association or not.
Anybody else have any questions for? Great presentation. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Is there a order of?
There is, so
Yeah.
we'll have Jason come up from ACAP next.
Okay.
Good evening, members of the City Council. It's great to be here with you this evening. I want to start, first of all, by acknowledging the great partnership that we have with the city. In my 9 years with ACAP, this has been in terms of productivity, working collaboratively with the city, one of the most rewarding times that we have had as an agency, whether it's with working with public safety, with the police department or the fire department, across programs, prevention, early care and education, our housing initiatives. Folks are there. The planning board has been phenomenal to work with in terms of getting Fournier Place off the ground, as has the code enforcement office and the economic development office. Everyone has been wonderful to work with, and of course, our ongoing relationships with the city manager's office and with the folks in the general assistance office is regular and consistent. So what I've presented to you this evening is information about our agency. We are just in the process of completing our 2024 data, and we'll have that to you as soon as it's available, detailing our year of service to both Presque Isle and to the Aroostook County community. Presque Isle is the largest of the communities, obviously, that we serve, and we deliver more services here in Presque Isle than in any other community in Aroostook County. We are working on a number of projects, and so to be in the interest of time tonight, I just want to provide you with a few highlights. Among those, as you started your evening, this evening, you heard about a request for a child care center and for additional support for a CDBG grant for a child care center. We are a current holder of one of 4 early childhood education grants in the state of Maine called First for Me, and so we're working to support child care providers, a few of which are here in Presque Isle, to be able to support them to ensure that their sustainability. We help them with training for staff, and we work across, obviously, multiple lines to help them with ensuring that they meet code and that they're appropriately ready for licensing, including helping startup child care providers as those come along through that particular program. Our work in housing continues, and with the opening of Fournier Place here in Presque Isle this year, we are now providing assistance and housing for individuals who were experiencing chronic homelessness on an average of 18 months apiece. For 15 individuals in the 13-unit supportive housing complex here. We have information on the demographics of the customers there. You will note all of the residents in that facility are from Aroostook County, with the exception of one person who traveled to Presque Isle from New York to work at a local establishment. So they are all either from Aroostook County or employed in Aroostook County, and I think you'll also be surprised at the number of people in the facility who are actually employed. I think dispelling some of the common misperceptions about people, individuals experiencing homelessness in terms of their ability to gain and hold employment. And I credit our staff with being able to help many of them get into employment and sustain employment with the support services that are provided there. In the early care and education realm, aside from the work that we're doing with First for Me to assist other providers, our work is really greatly intertwined with what's happening with the school district. We are closely following and monitoring the progress of a project in Skowhegan, a community school project in Skowhegan, which has our sister CAP organization embedded directly in the public school, so that a household, a family that has a preschooler or a toddler, infant and toddler, can drop their child off at the same location that they drop their first, second, or third grader off at. And so our conversations with SAD1, as they look toward future building uses and facilities here in the city, include the community school concept, as those conversations are happening in Fulton, Caribou, and up in the St. John Valley, as well as here in Presque Isle. In terms of one area where we're working really closely at and looking at as a challenge, and have had great conversations with the city manager's office on, we're really concerned about energy needs for our seniors and for low-income, vulnerable households here in Aroostook County. If you juxtaposition the need before the pandemic with the current need and the available resources, households are looking at about a $250 reduction in a heating assistance benefit this year compared to the 2019-2020 season going into the pandemic. And we all know that the cost of living is certainly not any less than it was then. So we're very concerned about that. We're seeing a record number of emergency calls since that program opened on late last week. And really concerned about what that's going to mean for households moving forward this winter in terms of their ability to keep their houses warm. So we're working on a multitude of projects, and again, the partnership with the city is greatly appreciated. The request before you is consistent with our request for all municipalities in Aroostook County. What we request is 40 cents per capita using the most recent decennial census. The most recent decennial census assesses that here in Presque Isle at $3,877. So again, 40 cents per capita. And what we're able to do with those funds is to provide a non-federal match that allows allows us to bring resources into the community in a variety of programs. So it's extremely helpful and greatly appreciated in the support that we get that helps us to bring additional dollars to much needed residents of this community and others across Aroostook County. With that, in the interest of time, I'd certainly be happy to take any questions, but as you can see in the materials here, there's a lot of activity.
Anybody have any questions for Jason? Great, great summary, Jason, and thanks for being
Nicely
brief.
Appreciate it.
We can reach out to you and email you if we want to dive deep into these, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
We'll consider the Red Cross next.
American Red Cross?
All right, Joy, come on down.
Good evening. I'm Joy Baresi-Socia. I'm the Executive Director of the Aroostook Agency on Aging. Thank you, and thank you for Scott for such a great education on airport construction. I learned a lot. Tonight I'm here to talk about our request for $5,500 from the City of Presque for our 2025 municipal allocation. As Jason mentioned, we're in a similar situation at the Agency on Aging where we have a required match of our federal and state funds, and that ranges from 10 to 30%. And we depend on the municipality contributions as well as philanthropic support to make that match and bring those federal and state dollars to us. Our funding allocation method has not changed in the past year. I think it's important to note that we don't go to the county general fund as well. We only go to the unorganized townships. That's been a question we've heard in the past. On the back, the letter that I provided is the same letter that was provided as a request. On the back of that letter, though, that I provided you tonight, I just wanted to point out the community impact to Presque Isle from the services that we provide. In the last fiscal year, our year ended at the end of September, the last fiscal year, we provided over 23,000 units of service. That could be a phone call, a meal, a visit, a case management visit, or an hour of home care service to 664 residents in Presque Isle, and those are unique individuals in Presque Isle that were served. And you can see how that breaks down across different services, a few of our over 20 services that we offer. In addition, we also house Aroostook RSVP, which is a senior corps volunteer program. And in that program, we had 125 volunteers from Presque Isle involved to support over 21 programs. Both of those, you can see the estimated value of our services of over $282,000, and as of the volunteer services of over $264,000. So there's a very good return on investment of the programs that we provide into the community, bringing that federal and state money in. I did want to just mention a few special projects that we had this last year, and I provided you some pamphlets and rack cards about these. I just wanted to point out the new Memory Center, which was opened in March, and the Adult Day Program, which opened in June. Both of those programs are very strong. 1 in 10 older people in Aroostook County have some form of memory loss. So these are very important services that we have. We've already seen over 80 clients in that Memory Center. And are now outpacing our ability to, of course, now the referrals are really flowing, so we're very challenged to keep up with that number of referrals. In addition, we established 20 access points. These are community sites that are shared space done in partnership with community entities in 20 sites across the county. And so any site is no more than 1 township away from any person in Aroostook County, which has provided us an amazing ability to connect the county through technology as well as in-center walk-in services in those sites. So Presque Isle, your access point is our office, which again, we have additional space and resources there to connect to these 20 sites as well. We have served as the lead entity for the Aroostook County Health Improvement Partnership. That information is available on our website, and in terms of the surveys and the research that was done by that group. That's a group of 20 community partners. I did bring Tyler a special book here but if anyone else would like that book, they can let me know, or they can see that on our website. And then finally, we were recently awarded a Connectivity Hub grant from the state of Maine, Maine Connectivity Authority, which is bringing a connectivity hub to our Presque location, which is available for all citizens of the county to use. It will increase our technical capacities at the site, and will focus programming on workforce development, specifically of in-home aids, workforce development, digital literacy. So we're partnering with the National Digital Equity Center, which is a Maine-based national center to help people learn how to use technology. And then the third area of focus is telehealth access, either helping people learn how to use telehealth equipment, or providing space for telehealth visits. So those are just 3 or 4 of the special projects we have going on, in addition to the nearly 30 other services that we have. So we really appreciate your support. I also want to thank Chair Freeman and Councillor Craig for their participation in the Rustic Civic Academy, which is an annual program we do to help adults of all ages learn how to advocate at all levels of government. So thank you for your service in that as well. Happy to take questions.
Any questions?
No, I just had a great time doing that. It was great. It was fun because it gave a chance for people to ask questions about how they can interact with government at all levels, and give our insight on how to do that. And I thought it was really beneficial. I visited Holton for one of your activities, and then here in Presque, and so you're doing it all over the county, so that's
and
wonderful.
Tyler participated as well.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
didn't forget you, Tyler. You helped
So,
as well. Thank you.
Well, one of the
great
things,
job.
when you did that in years past, I got a chance to do it this year, and they've got Zoom now. So they're hooked up with 3 or 4 locations at once. So,
And
it's growing.
Yeah, and this year, because of the access points, we plan to expand that to as many access points participating as we can. So, great program.
Real good.
Well, just the last thing I just quickly say is, you know, certainly with these organizations, Jason, you, money well spent, the bang for the buck and the turnover of the money into much larger programs that impact our community in huge ways is tremendous. And so, thank you both, and great job.
Thank you. We really appreciate being a part of your downtown too. So, thank you
Yeah.
for all that you're doing in that regard as well. Thanks.
All right, Aroostook County for Healthy Families. All right, how about Lenise from the Chamber of Commerce?
Good evening, Council. Lenise Searway, Central Aroostook Chamber of Commerce. It's an honor to be here. I enjoy coming and speaking with you folks every year. And I'm just going to glaze over what we've accomplished this year so far on behalf of the City of Presque. As you know, we host 11 main events, some of those being the big annual awards dinner that we host, the professionals, administrative professionals conference. We have picked up the Fiddlehead Festival and the craft fair as part of that. And this year we also expanded into the Fiddlehead Festival Shop and Eat adventure, where we had 10 businesses and 4 restaurants partner with us. So it really encompassed the downtown within that festival. The Crown and Maple Fest, which you know about that, and then coming up just here in a few weeks is our Holiday Light Parade and our Winter Craft Fair. So that whole Saturday is always bustling with a lot of things to do. We also host 29 smaller scale events. Of just a few examples, we help host the First Friday Art Walks. So there's 12 of those a year, every first Friday. And this year we rebranded, the poster looks differently. We have a lot more business participation. It's growing like more from the 6 mark to the 10 or 11 stop mark at this point. We're bringing in food trucks when we can get them available, sidewalk vendors, and music now. So whenever we can get all of that going, it's really starting to grow. We host an Eggs and Issues breakfast. We have a lot of educational programs that we host whether it's in a lunch and learn program and a breakfast or webinars, for things like paid family leave, tax opportunities, AI in business, subjects such as that, to help our businesses be able to thrive and be able to sometimes navigate those legislative issues that constantly come up. In Presque Isle, we hosted 10 ribbon cuttings this year thus far, so we still have a month and a half left. I'm sure we'll have another 1 or 2 by then. The Chamber markets and supports numerous programs. We partner with YPI, Momentum Aroostook, Leadership Aroostook, serving on panels and such. We've collected clothing for NMCC for the senior class, so they can have their senior class day. And of course, you know that we attended the downtown rebuild meetings and the JetBlue, all of those, and for just to show some support, to let you know that we are here, and if you need anything, we're certainly here for you. During the annual dinner, I'm honored to say that we had 2 businesses of the year from Presque Isle. The economic impact went to Ignite PI, who's doing great work. We partner a lot with them. And then community support, Aroostook Area Agency on Aging, and it was an honor to be able to do that for them. We have 13 new businesses in Presque Isle this year, so that's exciting. We're growing in that respect. I think it's because we're able to really engage the business community. I'm coming up on my 6th anniversary, and I feel like we're really getting into the meat of what the business community really needs, and I feel good about that growth. I did write 2 letters of support for 2 grants for the city this year so far. We serve 251 businesses in Presque Isle. We've done 597 visits yet this year. Examples of what that means. Strawberry shortcake, delivered strawberry shortcake or an apple crisp. The art walk, we visit every art walk every 12 months. We have directories, we hand deliver every directory, so we're walking into business, we're engaging in conversation. And business promotions. Now, we did 159 business promotions on our social media alone. And that 159 does not include anything in the newsletter that was promoting, or our event pages that we host, which is 9 of those that we host, and we do promotions there. And our event venue promotions, such as, you know, their logos on banners if they sponsored, and so forth. Social media is actually growing too. That was one of my goals. When I first came to the chamber, we were barely at not even the 2,000 followers mark, and now we're at the point where we can look at the analytics. Now this is during the Crown of Maine Balloon Fest, mind you, because that's a really busy time. But our post reach was 72,000 with 11,000 followers that were actually engaged. So to compare the Crown of Maine Balloon Fest time, or when people are engaged in things that are going on in the city of Presque Isle, let's just look at the average day. So we did a post of my assistant, Saray, who was so good in her customer service with the tourists that when they came to town, they brought her flowers. So we posted that. That was a big deal. We were honored that we could make their visit here so pleasant. And that particular post had a reach of 13,000 people, and then 600 people were actually engaged in that post. So our social media is doing a lot of work for our business community and on behalf of our events. So I wanted to share that piece. Tourism data, I was working with Jacob Halke, and he uses a program called TripShare. So I asked him, Crown of Maine Balloon Fest week, how were the numbers there? And what he reported from that app was that Presque Isle used to be the 170th most visited city in the state of Maine. We've now hit the top 50. So that's fantastic. During the Balloon Fest, we had a 93% hotel occupancy, and 12.5% of the visitors stayed 4 nights or more. So that's really good stuff, and it's really exciting that we can do that. So with taking on the Fiddlehead Festival this year and growing that and growing it into the citywide thing that we're trying to do, and then with the Crown of Maine Balloon Fest growing exponentially, we found ourselves in a quandary this year, that the generous gift that you folks give us every year, that we work very hard to make sure that we have earned all those dollars. We are now using City of Presque venues. We're renting those venues, and I found out that we're giving half of the money back. So I talked to Tyler, I said, what, is there something different that we can do? And this year is the first time we did it, because we had to rent facilities for these different things, because we are expanding and we are growing. So, the thought process that I had, because it's an exchange of money, so do we really want to do it that way? What is a better way? I don't know what that answer is at this point. But we certainly can grow that partnership. I could use those dollars to advertise, say, in New Brunswick, because I noticed that the tourism dollars, the tourism report didn't include New Brunswick, and I don't know why. They're our neighbors. So I'd like to use those dollars actually to advertise and bring our neighbors in to the City of Presque Isle and make it their norm, make this their destination to come do this on weekends. Even if it's just day trips. Come shop, eat, work ass up, do that here. And then what I've already done is I've made the forum its own business. As on the chamber, just serve them as though they're a normal business, and I can do the same with that and give them that extra advertising. And as you can see with social media and such, I have a good following, and my newsletter does too. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, just so that you know that was a new thing this year. And but it's a pleasure to serve. My 6 years have been wonderful. I love it. My assistant loves the work that we do. We love the partnerships. We love the opportunity to bring things here for our families and our community members. Because as you know, the Economy Balloon Fest is still a free event to attend, and so is the Fiddlehead Festival. So that's pretty much. I talked fast. I didn't want to take up too much time. It's getting late, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Anybody have any questions for her? Guys do an outstanding job. I remember when the light parade and the strawberry shortcake was kind of it. That was the two big deals.
Yes.
And now you've got 11 events now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We enjoy them.
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to just ask you to let the board of directors know they're doing a really good job, because it takes more than just the executive and your assistant.
It's
You've got
absolutely true.
You have a good active board, and we appreciate all their work as volunteers on that board.
Thank you, and I'll definitely pass that on. We have a board meeting on Tuesday, and I did notice we had 3 events pretty close together. In 6 weeks, we had 3 events, and they were there. They were there volunteering, giving of their time, their resources. The board's fantastic. I couldn't ask for a better supportive group.
It shows.
Thank you.
Thank you. Elise, wanna?
Okay, newcomer to the podium. First year, I remember being here in March, telling you about the idea, or just bringing this up as this is what we're intending to do. We're looking at something. Fast forward, things go really quickly, and we got her done. We opened the doors at the end of May. The Children's Museum is open, and at this time, after 4 or 5 months, we've welcomed about 4,000 visitors already. So it's very exciting. It's a project that we had to tackle in a little bit of a different way than what we're used to doing in the county, which is we want to have a project, we put a concept for it, we fundraise heavily for it, then it ends up happening at some point in the future. The Children's Museum was like reverse, and we were battling some old thoughts that had happened 15 years ago. We're talking about a children's museum in this area and so forth. So we said this time we can't do this way. We have to show that it's going to happen. We have to show that it's real and that there's going to be something to be seen. So that's what we did. The fallback of that is we don't have that big cushion of fundraising to work with. We just opened the doors. That's a bunch of us sacrificing a lot of time and putting our rolling up our sleeves and just being there and beating the hammer and the drill and trying to make this work in some areas that we just didn't even know what we were doing. But it's there and it's great. So, so here we are. Since I'm coming right after Lanice, I just want to talk about tourism and follow up on her points. I've been in several meetings with Jake, and what is so great about Jacob Pelkin, what he says is how we go back to the places that we were going as a kid. And less than 17% of people who travel to Aroostook County come with children. So they come for bird watching, snowmobiling, all kinds of other things, but most of them don't bring kids because we don't have a lot of kids attractions. Well, now we do. So now we have at least one solid kids attraction that we can, hopefully will bring more families into the area. So in this way, I see ourselves as a community partner in many other ways as well. But the rec card that I just gave you is a complement to the packet that I sent before. But it's a show that we've earned a Maine Office of Tourism marketing grant for $5,000. A lot of it went into creating materials, and these rec cards are actually being spent in numbers and thousands of numbers along Highway 95 all the way down to Portland in all of the visitor centers. And we're pointing people to say, hey, come up to Presque, come up to the Aroostook Center Mall. We're going to be a kids attraction there, so maybe you'll want to come with your whole family, spend the weekend, and so on and so forth. So we're hoping to have more of a presence this way. So the importance of kids attraction is important, but then we have two other branches that we really consider being our key. One of them is something that we sealed with a Aroostook partnership not too long ago, and being on the committee for education to industry and bridging what we can teach our students in this area about extending ELOs. So right now we have all kinds of program and internships for grade 9 and college, you know, those kinds of things. But now we offer ELOs for 2-year-olds and up. So they get to be in the museum and try what it's like to pretend being a dentist, pretend being, a doctor, pretend going in an airplane now as of today, pretend going to, running a supermarket and so on and so forth. So now we have those ELOs. And what we're seeking to do with Aroostook Partnership is complement the level of what I'm going to call vocational browsing, so that our students who come in can try those interests and then see, hey, I'm really fascinated with this and I'm always in the medical exhibit, but what's the next step? How do I go from here? If I want to be a nurse, do I go to NM? Do I need to go to MP? Is a high school degree enough? So what do I need to do? And so we'll have this very clear for each of the exhibits. Hey, I love teaching. What do I need to do next? What are the degree paths and how do we get there? So we're really trying to fill this gap and get more of that education to industry, which leads me to, we're also a great resource for our schools in the area, which struggle oftentimes to find a nice local field trip that is not too expensive. Well, that's us now, a great place where the kids can let loose but also learn something along the way, and we have all kinds of props for teachers to elaborate on and create all kinds of live lessons. So in doing this, I also want to say that when you're supporting us, you're supporting development at the mall, which is another aspect, and also securing the fact that PI is the hub of Aroostook, right? That's what we call it. There is no such other museum all the way from here to Bangor. So we're really showing that when you come to Aroostook County, you have those visitors coming in through the terminal. This is also where we have big tourist attractions and educational resources. So that's who we are. In closing, one thing that you already know and that we speak a lot of in these chambers because it's very important is the capacity of our population to pay. So in Bangor, in Portland, they can charge $12 a person, $25 a person to enter the museum. That's great, it covers their costs. We're not in that situation in Aroostook County. For schools, we charge $4 a child. Regular admission is $6 for parents and $8 for kids. And we can't make comparisons of, getting a $7 drinks at Dunkin's. That doesn't come through. We just have to offer this educational resource for that price. And so That's where we need help. Now, this said, the help we're requesting now, I know is a heavy one, but we're just starting, we're just getting the machinery going. We're advertising in New Brunswick with that tourism grant. We are advertising all through Maine to try to get more people, and I think with volume, we should be able to self-sustain more in future years. We just need a tiny little boost to kind of get us through the first couple of years, and we can secure our rent this way, secure electricity and heat, just those kinds of basics. And then we're hoping to be on our way. So that's who we are. That's what we're hoping for. Thank you so much for everything you have all personally done to get us where we are today. That's you too, Craig.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any questions for them? No?
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
All right, Central Aroostook Soil and Water. Gift. I know we just got a letter. Yep. Mr. Bruce Root.
I covered for him last year, so I'll do it again. Central Aroostook Soil and Water is affiliated with NRCS, which is a Natural Resources Conservation Service, part of USDA. They basically put boots on the ground to try and get projects, and we have right now Randy Martin, that's the executive director. He looks for grants. They also do services with cities, not only agriculture, but with cities to work on stormwater issues. They also get involved with wetlands, those types of things. If you have a man out in the field working within RCS, is usually a district employee or a volunteer that's working along with them to try to get resources for agriculture and municipalities in place. That's it, basically, in a nutshell.
Okay.
Thanks, Bruce. Did you want to talk about the cemetery while you're up there as well?
I can do it if you want right now.
Might as well. One trip.
I also am associated with the soil water, stuck on one subject, with the cemetery going out of Presque on the right, Johnson Cemetery. We've been going through a rough patch. Our finances are invested. It fluctuates between $100,000 and $130,000. We tried to operate off of the interest to mow that cemetery. It was very, very hard to do, and it started to deteriorate. We got a grant from the city last year. We used a large part of that grant to repair the roads. The roads were eroding. We had some issues. There's also, we've got a fairly active board which takes the responsibility away from the city, because if we start having to pay for maintenance on that cemetery out of our reserves, we would soon burn them out. And then that cemetery is going to be a responsibility to the city. I've got a list of work. I got the road stitched. I've got a list of work for next summer. I was going to try to do some this fall. Didn't work out. I ended up helping a farmer or two, and also spraying roadsides downstate with my nephew. So we didn't get what I wanted to do on a volunteer basis, but I think I'm going to have to hire some help next year to come in, remove some trees, stump work. Got to get some of these stumps, and got to do some stone repairs and those types of things, all that stuff. We just can't afford to do it on a normal basis. We're lucky if we were on our own to get it mowed once a week. And that's our request for Johnson Cemetery. Any questions?
Any questions, guys? Thanks, Bruce. Thanks. All set.
Thank you, Mr. Roop. Gift.
I'm Scott Smith
DeSantis, Neil and Kenny were directors for the Gift Food Pantry. I was in last year, and thank you for your help that you gave us last year. I'm asking for $3,500 this year to go towards our operational costs. We're a nonprofit food pantry, the largest food pantry north of Bangor, and we have 100%. We operate on 100% volunteers and 100% donations to operate. I included some numbers to basically, not quite to date, but of our clients, the people coming in monthly. We have around $2,300 to 2,400 people per year that are our clients of the food pantry that come in for assistance, of which 50% are senior citizens and about 30% are children. And we're members of the food distribution network that's provided by Catholic Charities and Good Shepherd. That is a kind of a membership thing. It costs us $1,500 a year to be part of that. We get a lot of USDA food at very little cost. They're the biggest bang for the buck of how you can buy food. And the most important thing I want to say about, we have a $25,000 budget, which I included in your packet. Our yearly budget. This year I budgeted a $4,400 loss. I'm the treasurer. Nealon is the chairman of the directors. There's 8 directors, and they're all volunteers. And I couldn't come up with a way to cover the loss, so we budgeted a loss, which I hate doing, and we rely on people to donate and talk it up and whatever. And we're going to cover it. I think it looks to me like I'm going to cover about $3,000 of that budgeted loss with surprise donations and whatever. So it's not the end of the year yet, so we're hoping the rest of it is going to get covered by the end of December. But I'm asking for your help again this year, primarily because of, I think, almost 40%. We service the central Aroostook area. About 40% of our clients or customers are from Presque. And we appreciate any help you can give us. If you have any questions of me or Malin, we'd be glad to answer them. But we really appreciate the help you gave us last year. It was much appreciated. And we'll continue to operate as long as we have volunteers on both sides, money and a bank of volunteers. That we have a volunteer executive director. She kind of organizes the volunteers to do the work. We have a good group of about 8 volunteers that work every week. They're there, and it's just we're very, very lucky and blessed to have the volunteers that are willing to do it, because it's just basically work of the heart.
Scott, how many days a week are you open?
We're open to we schedule people to come in to get the food.
Okay.
1 day a week. We're open 4 days a month.
Okay.
The 5th Wednesday of the month. If there's 5 of them, we're not open that one. But we take appointments for the people that need the help to come in. We're not means-based. We're basically directed that if anybody calls up and says they need food, we don't turn them away.
Help them. Okay.
And if it's somebody we suspect that doesn't really need it, we ask them to start volunteering, and that usually makes them disappear. So anyway. Any other questions?
That's wonderful. Great job.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I made it in time for
Did a great job, record time. All right, thank you. Hope and Justice? All right, Lake Stewards of Maine, thank you for your presentation earlier. Life Flight? Maine Public Radio? Presque Isle Snowmobile Club?
I'll take my hat off.
Mr. Green, thank you.
Some of our board members aren't here, so I'll just take my hat off for a second. I am on
Thank
the
you.
board. So the money that's in the budget is in 2 ways. The club pays taxes to the city and has every year, and it's we pay our property taxes, we are a nonprofit, but we do pay taxes to the city. We also bought a new groomer about 2 years ago, and that was an expense of about $330,000. And so we asked for a $5,000 5-year commitment from the city to help defray the $20,000 a year expense that we're going to have to pay it back. So that is part of the $8,400. The other monies are monies that are passed through from the state. That when they register sleds, it comes to the city, and then you pass it. So that's really not a taxpayer thing; it's a pass through. It comes into the city from outside, and so the only part of this that really is any part of budget is the $5,000 commitment that we voted on a few years ago. So, okay.
Thank you for that short presentation. Quaggy Joe?
Stay out.
Okay.
So the director cannot be here tonight. He was another board meeting, so I'll go down and read the letter that he submitted. Since 1932, Quaggy Joe Ski Center has been a cherished part of the Presque Isle community, offering local families and young people a welcoming, affordable place to learn the joys of skiing, making lasting memories, and embrace the winter season together. Generations of community members have experienced the thrill of skiing for the first time right here at Quaggy Joe, and we're committed to ensuring that future generations that will have the same opportunity. However, today we're facing significant challenges over the past few years with shorter winters and rising costs has strained our ability to keep Quaggy Joe affordable and accessible. Our insurance premiums have doubled, the cost of electricity, maintenance, and wages have steadily climbed. As a community-based nonprofit ski center, we're doing everything we can to keep costs down, but we can't do it alone. We're reaching out to ask for your continued support in sustaining Quaggy Joe's legacy. We value our relationship with the city of Presque Isle and are grateful for the generous donations we've received over the past several years. This year we're requesting continued support in the amount of $15,000. While this request is higher than the previous years, any donation amount is appreciated. This additional funding will allow us to purchase new skis and boots to replace our aging inventory, expand our inventory of helmets to ensure safety, acquire additional safety and rescue gear to update our existing equipment, and also operating costs for the after-school youth programs, which serves grades 3 through 8 over a 6-week period each season. By investing in Quaggy Joe, you're not only supporting a beloved institution, but also preserving a place of joy, learning, and community that has touched countless lives. We thank you for helping Quaggy Joe Ski Center, a vibrant part of Presque Isle's winter traditional, good for generations. Warm regards, Chris Richter Collins, Operations Director.
Thanks. Thank you, sir. Last but not least, one of my favorite places, Wintergreen Arts.
Really quick. Thank you for your time. At Wintergreen, we love our partnership with Presque Isle. I believe we're on year 9, and it's been really great. This year was our biggest year for Art with Heart, which takes place at Presque Isle Housing Authority. We had hundreds and hundreds of children come and make art with us, and it's wonderful. Makes me happy. We work with the rec department. Definitely in the summer, we were at the rec doing art. We were in the parks doing art, and what we say is that no child is ever turned away. In summer programming, in our after-school programming especially, if you say, can we have a scholarship, we don't ask any other questions. That's it. That's what you get. We have families that they do the 2-for-1 special, always. And if they can pay for one, they get both of them. Sometimes they can't pay for either one, and they still come. So our impact on this community is amazing. I equate it to my son loves to be at the rec, loves to play ball. We have our Wintergreen kids that they don't want to be at the rec. They want to be here. They want to be making art with us. And I just love that you help make that possible. Questions? Do you want numbers?
Well, let me just say 2 things. Number one, we years ago had a kind of a component of our rec program that was art, and I always joke, and of course we did a lot more in this, but I always said that there's only so much you can do with popsicle sticks and Elmers. So you have taken the arts programs in our community to a level that is unbelievably good. It's a facet of our economic development. People that work at the aerospace manufacturer that's at our airport, some of them located here because they asked about our programs, and one of the things they said, do you have arts? And we headed toward your facility. So not only are you serving our community with children and families, but you are also a calling card to development, which is something that is unbelievable. So we couldn't even begin to have an art program for the amount of money you're asking for. And what you, again, like other organizations, take that money and turn it into larger facets that help our community. Hats off to you. Wonderful job. And love your art walk nights. So,
Very
got
much
my support in
appreciate
that.
it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
That's all, folks.
All right. A lot of great presentations, a lot of good handouts here, but it buried my agenda, so I'm gonna go figure that out. All right. Would you like to do the manager's report now, sir?
Yes, I can go ahead and do a manager's report here. It's about 37 minutes long, so if you want to go to the bathroom first. No, absolutely not. First and foremost, a few updates, especially surrounding our finances, and I just want to thank Laura for working very well with Brad and doing a great job as our new finance director. So far, at the end of September, the city is $681,000 below its net spending budget. Revenue is above budget by $680,000, and expenses, which are the items that the city staff can control and do a very good job at, we are $1,100 below budget. So very proud of the entire city staff for that, controlling cost and ensuring that taxpayer dollars are used correctly. As far as revenue is concerned, certainly want to say thank you to Chief White and Deputy Chief Allen. Fire Department, $286,000 above budget. Revenue is $114,600 above year-to-date budget. So the team's doing a great job with the EMS revenues over there and really driving that. So appreciate the team. In addition, our facilities team, the forum, they continue to do an amazing job providing great community events and really helping bring that sense of community together. They're roughly $64,000 above budget so far, and they're jam-packed. I'll tell you, you can't go a day without seeing events at the forum, so really proud of them there. And then I'll say a shout out to our finance team and Brad for the investments that he's done through the year. We're at roughly $81,000 above budget due to some, as he says, great CD rates. So thank you very much for being proactive, and thank you for investing money wisely and ensuring that taxpayers get value out of that. That said, I also, switching gears, I do want to secondly thank our public works team. They really had a very strong paving season. The team was out and about. I think recently you saw them out collecting leaves, and on Halloween, the Jason masks, just a lot of fun, and that team has done an amazing job. They've been getting ready for the snow coming very soon, and really proud of the work they're doing. They've got some new blowers and new equipment, so excited to see that in action. Talking about our police department, Chief Hayes earlier talking about calls, 11,177 calls year to date. Closest to us would be Holton, which would be 6,800. So, and that's quite a lot, and that just shows the reason why we need to continue to invest in that great team there. I'm proud of the work that they do. And then lastly, just want to make sure that everyone knows and introduce Miss Sonia Eiler as our new assistant manager for the city of Presque Isle. So very excited and proud to have her on board. And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you. I've got a few announcements to read here. And I got a question in the middle of it here, so I'll go back to it. So we have the following vacancies for boards and committees. The Assessment Review Committee, there's an opening for 2 one-year alternates. The Audit Committee, we're looking for 1 4-year member. Downtown Revitalization, 1 4-year member. It's a pretty active board there. Library Board of Trustees, 1 1-year alternate. Rec and Parks, 3 positions open and 3 1-year alternate positions open, excuse me. And the Zoning Board, there's 1 1-year alternate. So if you have any interest in those volunteer organizations and you want to get involved with your town or city, please see the city clerk for an application or apply online. As mentioned earlier, we were thinking about we're planning on and we'll hold a budget workshop next Wednesday, November 13th. What time?
It'll be at, actually at
5?
Can we do 5 o'clock? Would that work for all?
5. Let's try to start at 5.
Start
Yep.
at 5 o'clock.
Yep, so
Yes,
I had
sir.
a question about that, so. Okay, so 5 o'clock next Wednesday here in City Council chambers will be our budget workshop. And the next scheduled meeting of the Presque Isle City Council will be on Wednesday, December 4th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Seeing no other business, I'd entertain a motion to move into executive session for 1 MRSA 4056C to discuss real estate.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved by Hank and seconded by Jeff. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much, everyone, for being with us this evening. Have a good week.